Hello, I'm Jackie Geringer McDermott, and I'm coming to you live from my house in Belle Plaine, Iowa today for two reasons. Number one, I fell on the ice this week and I'm home recovering. And number two, we could be getting more snow this morning. It is February 8th, 2025. This diary or journal was written by my great aunt, Mary Elizabeth Claypool Wade, who was known as Libby Wade. Here is a picture of Libby. She's the older woman in the center, surrounded by her older granddaughters. She was my grandmother's aunt and the matriarch of our very large family. Libby lived a half a block east of Main Street in a little house on Oak Street in North English, Iowa until near the end of her life in 1959. She was 71 years old in 1946. I don't remember her, but she knew me as a baby. Downtown North English was also the center of my life as I grew up. I would like to introduce you page by page to the cast of characters from North English, Iowa, and the surrounding English Valleys area. June 1st, 1946. One of the horses at the sale yesterday brought $8,000. Belva's 26th birthday. Cold, cloudy. Mrs. Bolt's brought some berries. Temperature at 3:30 was 48 degrees. Belva Yoss is Libby's oldest married granddaughter. This is a picture of her later in life. Mrs. Bolt's was an old friend from town, and we will read more about the Maplecrest Ranch sale when we finish the diary portion of the program. June 2nd, 1946. A little warmer today. Lena was here, and also Hattie. Russell went to church. Warren was here in the PM. Russell went fishing with Mr. Warner. Colder in the evening. Russell, or Taller Wade, Taller was his nickname, is Libby's 38-year-old son who lives in the house with her. Mr. Warner was Ellison Barnes, or E.B. Warner, Russell's boss and friend who went fishing with him. Warren, that came up to see her, was in this picture her second son. His nickname was Mike Wade, and his wife was named Lena. And I don't have a picture of Hattie Newberry Killian. That's her friend, who is 55 years old and has returned to North English to care for her elderly mother, Clara Newberry. June 3rd, 1946. Primary election. Temperature in Atlantic, Iowa this morning was 33 degrees. 45 degrees at Montezuma. Clear and sunshine. Mr. Cray called, said Ella Wire died last night. No word yet from Richards. Put 5 quart of strawberries in the locker. Jenny helped. Mary R. was here and Maud C. Libby gets her weather information from the radio. Mr. John Cray is the father of her son-in-law, Richard Cray. Richard and Anna live in Texas and are supposed to be driving to Iowa soon, so the Iowa family is getting a little anxious. Jenny is her daughter-in-law, the wife of her oldest son, Wayne, or Perky Wade. They will be putting the strawberries in the town locker owned by the Johnson family, uptown about a half a block from Libby's house. In those days, most people did not have home freezers. Mary Regseger is the younger person in this picture. She's her neighbor, egg lady, and friend. And Maud Claypool is also her friend. She's the nephew of wife of Libby's nephew, Ray Claypool. The women were likely sewing or visiting or working on lodge work or church work. June 4th, 1946. Mrs. Wire's funeral is at 2 p.m. in Wellman. Mrs. Bolt's here, brought berries. Waynes are getting new windows put in today. Richard, Anna, Arlen, and Verl came about 8 p.m. Libby likes to check with the neighbors and friends for fruits and vegetables, that she can, freeze, or preserve. So Mrs. Bolts was offering berries to the Wades. Libby's son Wayne and his family live a half block south of Libby and are getting new windows. The Crays are from the Valley in Texas, and they have arrived for a visit. This is Richard and Anna Cray. Anna's her only daughter. They are citrus farmers in South Texas near the Edinburgh area. Their oldest son, Mylon Richard, who Libby refers to as Mylon and other people call Richard or Dick, is in the Navy. The younger two boys, Arlen and Verl, are with their parents on this trip. And here's a picture of the three Cray boys. The three Cray boys were all in the Navy, were athletic football players, and became college-educated teachers. They were principals, coaches, and citrus farmers in later years. Mylon Richard passed away at a relatively young age, as his mother Anna did too. But Arlen and Verl both lived until recently, both living to be 90 years old. I did correspond with Mylon Richard's daughter Linda, but it has been a while since I've heard from her. I know that Verl read these diaries as they were originally in a box with his mailing label on them. In the summer of 1946, grandson Arlen Cray is 17 years old, and Verl Cray will be 14 in a few days. And here's a picture of Verl when he was an older person. June 5th, 1946. Richards went to Mrs. Wyer's funeral. I got 8 quarts of berries from Mary, put 6 in the locker. Verl helped to pick berries at Mr. Cray's, brought us 16 quart. Amy Carter is in town. I don't know her name. She is from California. It sounds like today Libby scored 24 quarts of strawberries, so she was able to have plenty to feed to her company from Texas and put the rest in the town locker. Amy Carter was an old neighbor from the Yankee Point area where their family used to live north of town. June 6, 1946. Took care of berries. Sent 5 quarts to the locker. Verl mowed the yard. Arlen went to Cedar Rapids with Russell. Mrs. Healy died this morning, age 89 years. Verdi was here, and also Millie Knipfer in the PM. Anna helped me. Lena here a while too. Russell bought Anna some nylons. Verl was very likely using the kind of lawnmower that is pushed with no mower, like this one. Verdi Mahana McKinstry was Libby's close friend. Millie Knipfer was the ancestor to the Knipfers who lived in North English and also to the Doris Brock family from South English. And Lena Wade is her daughter-in-law, of course, and Mrs. Mary or Minnie Healy was the neighbor of Libby's neighbor to the east, Minnie Agnew, and also the mother to Susie O'Brien. So she was, interestingly, the ancestor of several area families, including the O'Briens, O'Rourke's, Agnews, Dawsons, Healy's, Gregans, Gerards, Costellos, hers, etc. Interestingly, Minnie Burke Healy was born in England in 1856 and followed her boyfriend, John Healy, to Iowa and married him here. She had been a member of the Church of England and converted to Catholicism. June 7th, 1946. Got 17 quart of berries from Mary R. Put 8 in the locker, canned some, and ate the rest. Washed in the AM. Anna came up and finished her washing. Then they went to Cedar Rapids. Jenny went too. The boys went fishing. No luck. Russell lost his cap. It sounds like Anna's family is sleeping down at the home of her brother Wayne and his wife, Jenny. That's down the other block on Clark Street. June 8th, 1946. Anna ironed. After dinner, they went to Wellman. Mrs. Healy's funeral was today at Armagh. Nice and warm now, but a good breeze. Maud was here. Richards went to Wellman and to Wilna's. Mrs. Healy's funeral was at the rural Catholic church west of North English and southwest of Millersburg called Armagh. There is only a cemetery left there now. Richard and Anna Cray had previously lived at Wellman before they moved to Texas, and he has family there, and Anna's paternal relatives live in that area too, including her first cousin, Wilna Wade Schlabaugh, that they went to visit today. Sunday, June 9th, 1946. I was alone all day. Russell went fishing in the morning with William Wilkerson. Was home for dinner. We had one nice fish, thanks to Mr. W. Russell went in the p.m. and got some bullheads. Went away again in the evening. Verl and Arlen came here to sleep. William, or Bill Wilkerson, is the older guy in this picture, and he was the father of a large Wilkerson family from North English. And we'll come back to this picture later because there's lots of good friends in this picture. June 10th, 1946. Richards went to Kinross to pick berries. Warmer. The boys came here, and Richard and Anna stayed at Wayne's. I canned and lockered 17 quarts of berries. Richard Cray's father, John Cray, lives at Kinross, and he has a berry patch too. I had forgotten you can can strawberries, as we always freeze them. I Googled it, and this is what I learned. They have a softer texture than fresh strawberries, and they often have a sweeter taste that works well with desserts. Evidently, some Libby canned, and some she put in the locker uptown to freeze. June 11th, 1946. Verl went to Cedar Rapids with Russell. Arlen was here most of the day. Richard, Anna, Wayne, and Jenny started to Canada to visit Richard's aunt. Very warm. Maud was here. An electrical storm here. A mulberry tree went down at Newberry's. They thought it was struck by lightning. I went to the lodge meeting. Past noble grands were honored, a nice program. And I should mention, too, that Rebecca Lodge was in the building, the same building as the locker, right on the corner of Main and Oak. Noble Grand was the highest office in Libby's lodge, called the Rebecca Lodge. I know she was a Noble Grand of the Green Valley chapter, but I'm not sure about the North English chapter. We have some of those records at the English Valley's History Center. I will have to see what I can find out. June 12th, 1946. Mrs. Bursler to hospital in CR. Rainy, rained nearly all night. Cooler. Had a letter from Anna from Holland, Michigan. Verl went to Evelyn's. Mrs. Bursler is a neighbor. The postal service is a little quicker than today. They just left. Grandson Verl went to stay with his older married cousin, Evelyn Kurtz, and she's in this picture right here, at the top one on the top. Her husband was Wayne, and their young daughter was Suzanne. June 13th, 1946. I washed. Arlen helped carry water, etc. Mrs. Bolts brought berries for supper. I sent Mrs. Wilson a birthday card to the Mason City IOOF Hall. IOOF home. Even though the family now had a washing machine, water still had to be carried to it and put in it and then disposed of it afterwards, and the same with the rinse water. So Arlen was good help for her today. Mrs. Wilson was a friend who had gone to live in the old age home in Mason City that was a part of this IOF organization, or lodge organization, that many of them belonged to. June 14th, 1946. Beth here in the evening. Verl is 14 today. Iron part of the wash. Belva took her baby to Cedar Rapids to a specialist. He will be there a few days at least. I went over to Newberry's a while. Arlen mowed the yard and took tar paper from around the house. I went to town in the AM with Arlen in the car. Beth Mulholmes is the youngest person in this picture, the little girl in front, and she's Libby's niece. And this is Libby's sister here, Sarah Myrtle Claypool Mull, J.J. Mull, and then the older Mull children. Belva Yost is her married granddaughter, and Mick Yost is her son, who is going to go to the specialist in Cedar Rapids. The Newberrys were their neighbors, where she went over to visit for a while. The tar paper around the house was for water-resistant insulation. Russell must have trusted Arlen to let him drive his new car around the block to take his grandma Libby uptown to shop. June 15th, 1946. It began raining early in the morning. Very dark, had hard rain and strong winds from the east. Verl had a birthday card from his folks. They are in Canada and are going to go see Niagara Falls. That's the end of the diary portion for this week. I was going to do a feature on Mace Brown this week, but I need to be at the History Center to get the pictures I want to use. More about the horse sale at Maplecrest Ranch. Maplecrest Ranch was accessed by a driveway on the east side of Highway 149 south of town, south of Voss's Pond. According to this article in the North English Record for that week, more than 6,000 buyers from Massachusetts to California and from Canada to the Gulf of America were on hand for the sale of 75 American saddle horses and Tennessee walking horses, ranging from yearlings to 5-year-olds. The 1,000-acre ranch had been developed by A.C. Gingrich, the owner of Maplecrest Turkey Plant at Wellman. Joe Vitt was the manager of the ranch and in charge of this horse sale. The Wellman High School band was on the grounds and furnished music. The top-selling horse of the day was a 2-year-old chestnut stallion that brought $8,000. There was an aerial picture in the newspaper taken by David B. Evans from a plane piloted by Bill Mahana showing the large crowd, but it's not legible. The ranch also had 100 Hereford cows with John Minich as the herdsman. I will get back to the History Center next week, and I'll show you a picture of the Maplecrest Ranch. Correspondence, etc. for February 8th, 2025. Vicki Orndorff Johnson writes, "Thank you, Jackie, for another broadcast. I'm enjoying every moment." Pam Kavanaugh Shield writes, "Thanks again, Jackie, for North English history. So many familiar friends and family mentioned." Leslie Hogendorn and I have been best friends since we were young, growing up about a block apart. Many great memories we have and still keep in close contact. I remember times I got to help at the record office on Wednesday evenings. The Hogendorn family was a great influence in North English and beyond. Great family. I plan on getting down to the History Center at some point, and hopefully we'll be able to make the alumni luncheon this month. Speaking of the alumni luncheon, it is February 24th at Bryant's at the Williamsburg Mall at 11:30. Please contact Alice Floring Stramer or Linda Holden Carter for reservations. We heard from Brad Aldrich also. I purchased my first car from Carl Hogendorn, a 65 Mustang. First week, the transmission went out. He sold it to me for $500 and came and fixed it for $175. He said all he needed was to keep him informed on how it was doing. So I would go get him once in a while, and we would drive around and catch up. What a great family. The stories that car could tell. I think he got his money's worth out of picking me up and chatting about life's experiences in his old 65 Mustang. I also spoke to Rose Fobert, and she mentioned how special it is to see pictures of Hazel Cobb as a young woman. Yes, that's one of the parts of my broadcast that I enjoy the most, unearthing pictures of the generation I knew when they were young people. In memoriam this week, we would like to remember Gary Robert Wagaman from the English Valley's class of 1960, who passed away this week. Gary lived in Macon, Missouri and was the son of Doyle and Grace Wagaman from South English. He was a longtime trucker and mechanic and had many friends. I would like to go back to this picture. It's from 1947, and it's the North English boys basketball picture. I want to tell who everybody that's in the picture. The back row is Coach Formonic, and Larry Kaufman is next to him, right here, who would later marry Alberta Claypool, and is the father of my distant cousin Mike Kaufman from Belle Plaine. And then there's Ralph Perrin, Arthur Calvert, Tom Doolin, Bill Berry, who was in my mom's class. I used to see him often at the Williamsburg post office, and he loved to visit about North English. Kenny Donahue, who married Betty Gilchrist, and the father of my friends Mike and Randy Donahue. And then we're on the corner over here is Ralph Bursler, who was the one that mowed Libby's yard in the summertime. In the front row, down here, is Jerry Harris. Jerry was married to Mary Lou Lockridge and is the father of my friends Christy and Kathy and Terry and Tony Harris. Next to him is Charles Schulenthaler, the son of our town dentist. And then Don Johnson. And then Bill Fobert, who married Dorothy Polton and is the father of Jerry and Randy Fobert. Then Bob King, Dean Gibbons, Dave Green, and on the end is George Wine, who became the sports information director at the University of Iowa. I thought that picture was pretty interesting, and of course it's at the History Center if you want to see it, and I believe it's in the English Valley History book too. The next one I'm going to show is the 1947 girls basketball team picture. Bonnie Reese Parker is in this corner. Right there. And she came back to North English to live later in life. Next to her is Helen Marie Lockridge Davis. And then Joanne Harris Geringer, who married my Uncle Arnold Geringer and is the mother of my Texas Geringer cousins, Dave and Kim and Carrie. Then the same coach, Coach Formonic, Shirley Cox Sledetsky, Jeanette Doherty Nadley, who was my mother's other best friend and the mom of Jeff Nadley. Then Marilyn Davison Kenny, and on the end is Phyllis Wade Peters. She was Libby's granddaughter, the older daughter of Warren or Mike and Lena Wade, and she also came back to live in North English in later years. In the front row on this side is Joyce Miller Denslow, the daughter of Old Doc and Elizabeth Miller, and the mother of Corey Denslow, and they came back to live in North English later in life also. Then Jean Fobert Tolander, Jean Robu Harris, the mother of my friends Barb and Rick and Jan Harris, Betty Cox Humphrey, then Joanne Churchill Harris, the wife of Larry Harris and the mother of John, Linda, Nancy, and Mary Harris. Then Bev Stewart Lown, who was married to Stan Lown and the mother of Roger, Randy, Ron, and Rick Lown, and Alberta Claypool Kaufman, the best friend of my Aunt Joanne Harris Geringer. She was married to Larry Kaufman and the mother of my distant cousin from Belle Plaine, Mike Kaufman, and his two brothers, Tom and Dave. During my research, I have also come across other people and topics I intend to do features about in the future. So far, the list is the 2 North English water towers, the Veterans Monument, 2 more ball team pictures from the 1940s, another centennial picture of guys around town, the Ballard picture, Yankee Point School, the 17 Kellers, the Geringer boys, the Vandies, the Johnstons, the Cheneys, the Texaco Fire, the Christian Church embroidered quilt with the names that was generously donated by the Thomas family, Carter, Iowa, Stan and Bernadine Warner, Rebecca Lodge and the IOF Lodge, the Mosaic, Spanish Flu and North English, Keith Mason, the Fortnightly Club, George and Maxine Smith, Georgia and Bruce Warner, the Wilkersons, the Miller Hardware Family, Noah V. Miller, the David B. Evans family, Donald and Elda Garrett, Old Doc Miller, Doc Larry and Johnette Miller, Alice Shively, Vic Sephoric, Laura Swope, the Orpheum Theater, Bob and Ethel Castile, Dean Best, Al Brainerd, Father Pasha, the Centennial when we get to 1954 in the Diaries, someone from Kinross, someone from Webster, someone from DRM, maybe Grandpa Henry Schaffner, and many more. If I live that long, please contact me about other topics that you would find interesting and any pictures you might like to have me use. We have set up a channel on YouTube where the posts can be viewed, and it's easier than hunting on my Facebook page for the broadcasts. So far, we have over 500 views on YouTube. They are archived by date of broadcast. We invite you to subscribe, like, share, and tell your friends. Subscribing to YouTube is free. We also will continue to use Facebook each week. Some funding from the History Center comes from Iowa County 100 Plus Who Care and from the Iowa County Community Foundation. Please send donations to the English Valleys History Center, P.O. Box 70, North English, Iowa 52316. Scott and Bonnie Romine are working on the programs for 2025, and Scott Romine has posted a schedule for the alumni reunion at the History Center during North English Fun Days on Saturday, July 26, 2025. There is a flyer on the EV Graduates page if you need more information about it when different decades of classes will meet. Please join that page. The parade is at 10:30. There also might be tours through the old schools. I don't know about that for sure yet. Starting at noon, snacks and drinks will be available at the History Center, paid for by sales from the Everyone at EV book for 2025, with pictures of all the graduates since 1957. I will be doing a live broadcast before the parade at 9 a.m. and staying around after the parade to visit with alumni. We are also interested in learning about historical English Valleys items that you might wish to donate to the History Center. Please contact Dave Jackson, Scott Romine, Dan Best, or Alan Ackerman, or any board member to donate. Thanks. We'll see you next week.